tuning our awareness into those capacities of God that we truly are, and drawing forth the one that is called imagination. Bring forth into your imagination your image of peace. Since we're talking about peace today, let your imagination begin to wander into peace. What is peace for me? What would it feel like for me to be at peace? What would it feel like for me to live in peace every day? What would it feel like for me to be the one who was the peaceful one, no matter what was going on around me? What would it take? What would it take for me to stay centered in peace, allowing the piece of me to radiate forth? What would it take for me to stay in my peace, in my center, in my divinity, no matter what is going on around me? Bring that question for yourself into the sacred and holy silence. And now into your imagination, allow to flow a symbol of peace, whatever it might look like for you. It's your own unique, individualized expression of peace. See if you can let that come into your imagination. Just trust that it will happen. And if it doesn't show up, can you be at peace with that? Knowing that in a moment where you're not focused on it, it'll just show up. That symbol. Now in your imagination, hold that symbol in your hand. Or if it hasn't come forth yet, just hold out your hand knowing that that symbol will come forth. And look at that symbol. And as you look at it with soft, loving eyes. And bless it. And give gratitude for that symbol coming forth. And then tuck it someplace where it's always with you. It could be tucked in your heart. Or wherever you choose. So that you know that you have peace within you. And when you're in doubt, which sometimes occurs for us, you can return to the symbol that's tucked wherever you've placed it. And you can remember. And whenever you forget, you can remember. So coming back into the awareness of this room, this time and this place, begin to wiggle and stretch a little bit, bringing your awareness and presence into this now moment. And say with me, I am the piece of me. Together? I am the piece of me. Yeah. Let's say it one more time. I am the piece of me. So we are the piece of ourselves. We're the place where peace shows up. We live in a world that it's very easy to see chaos. Can you agree to that? Do you agree to that? It's very easy to look around, particularly in our political arena, particularly in looking at social justice issues, things like homelessness and poverty. It's easy to look and feel overwhelmed. It's easy to feel scared by technology. Is our account going to be broken into? So we can look at the world and we can see a tremendous amount of chaos. Are you able to look at that same world, the same political situation, the social justice issues, the technology glitches that sometimes we have? And are you able to see peace in even those situations? I think it's the calling of Spirit to be able to do just that. That no matter what we're looking at, to be able to see peace. I don't know about you guys, but for me, sometimes it's a challenge. When I cannot get into my bank account, my online banking account, because I haven't been on in enough time, so that now I have to do something like re-log in with as if I've never had an account before. I find my frustration level rising. And I have to take some time and breathe. I have to take some time and remember that if I'm calm and I'm peaceful, then I'm more likely to be able to get in. And then I want to be calm and peaceful when I call the company who's located in San Francisco for one of my banks and have a conversation. I'm locked out again, and I give the information, and they're always quite lovely. They're always quite nice to me. And we go through the process to get me back into my bank account, my online banking, so that I can do whatever transaction I had intended to do. And sometimes it takes an hour to do it. Sometimes it takes longer, depending on where I'm located, because of the time difference. But the question for me is, can I maintain my peace through all of that? It's getting easier. I will say that to you. It's getting easier, and online banking is getting easier. This week I went to cash a collection of checks that I had been accumulating over a few days, and this very nice young man at the bank was helping me. And he said, Miss Golden, do you have the app? I said, I do. It's on my phone. Do you know you can cash your checks through the app? And I laughed. I said, I'm an old lady. I don't know how to do this. He was like 20. And we were laughing about it. And he said, if you'll make an appointment and come in, someone will teach you how to do that. And I thought, well, that's a very good idea. Am I willing to be peaceful through that process, expand my knowledge and awareness, and learn how to take a picture of my check and trust? See, there's another piece, P-I-E-C-E, that goes with peace, P-E-A-C-E. There's another piece that goes with having peace is trust and faith. So am I willing to expand my consciousness and my skill set in order to find peace in all areas of my life? Because it is an expansion of consciousness. It is a way to do something different. Peace truly starts within us. We are the place where peace shows up. Eric Butterworth tells a Hindu story that illustrates this very well. In the very beginning of Discover the Power Within You, if you've ever read that book, he tells a Hindu story where people were gods. Well, we know that we are a beloved expression of God, that we're it. But people are gods, which I think we are God. We're God in expression. But these folks had abused their power. And so the supreme God, and that's one of that's the main God in Hindu tradition. They're all the supreme God, but that's the others are facets. Had gotten together with some of the facets of him or herself, and decided, let's hide their divinity. Let's hide human beings' divinity. We'll just mess with them a little bit. We'll hide it. So the first place they thought of hiding it was in the earth. And as they were having this discussion, can't you imagine them having a discussion over, some beautiful, whatever kind of juice gods would drink. So whatever your favorite juice is, or wine, or drink, or beverage. Hey, let's hide it in the earth. And somebody says, oh no, somebody go dig it one day and dig it up. They'll dig up their divinity. And another one says, hey, let's hide it in the ocean. And they're talking about this and having a discussion. And somebody says, oh no, somebody go deep sea diving and they'll discover their divinity and they'll bring it up from the depths. Somebody else says, okay, let's hide it on a mountaintop. And they're talking about it, and as they're having their discussion, somebody says, oh, somebody's going to climb the highest mountain and the highest peaks, because people have within them that desire to do things like that. And so they decided not to do theirs. So one of them said, hey, I know where nobody's going to find it. Within. I'm going to put it within, and nobody's going to think to look there. Sometimes that is the last place we look for something. That's the last place we think to go in the midst of chaos. Sometimes when I'm walking around Walmart is actually my place that I have some of the most trouble being at times. I love to go there. They have great produce these days. Now the wild oats took them over. But sometimes it's the most difficult place for me to be. So I like to go to those most difficult places so I can practice. I can practice peace in the midst of Walmart. And when I can go start to finish through Walmart and feel as peaceful, if not more so when I leave, as in when I came, then I know that I have engaged in peace. So find that place for yourself that's difficult to practice. It may be different for each of us, but find that place that's difficult for you. Go there specifically to practice. Because when we can have peace in those difficult places, we can have peace anywhere. When we can tune in, find that place inside of ourselves, then we can do it anywhere. Gardner Hunting, he's a unity minister who used to write in the 1920s. I love some of the old unity works. He wrote one book called Working with God. Gardner Hunting says, peace is an atmosphere of the heart, a state of the individual soul, and has nothing to do with environment or circumstance. Yeah. And yet, how often do we, and I'm seriously saying we, allow the circumstance around us to take us out of our center? How often do I say, my words create my reality, and I say the words, but then I allow my circumstance to take me out of my peace, and it's me giving my power away, because peace is truly a state of consciousness, and we know that it's a state of consciousness because in Luke, Jesus said to us, the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of God, depending on the translation, the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God is within. It's a state of consciousness that is within us. So if that state of consciousness within us changes in any way, who was the one that allowed it to change? No, couldn't be me. No. Oh, I would never do anything like that, right? So it gives us power. It might be something we don't want. Oh my gosh, I don't want to have to do the practice that brings me to peace everywhere. Then don't. It's okay. Let yourself be in worry and fret. Allow that for yourself if that's what you want, because sometimes that's the adrenaline rush we most desire, because that's familiar to us. It's very familiar. Worry, anxiety are conditioned responses. And we're so used to living in those, they're actually conditioned reactions. We're so used to living in them at times that it's easy to pop right back into them instantaneously. It's almost like it's an automatic pattern that we need to interrupt. The beauty of spiritual community is that when I'm in worry, when I'm fretting about somebody will say to me, would you like a suggestion of how you might make a shift? And I can say yes, or I can say no. I have that freedom. But what I know is that the consciousness is always within me, therefore always within my own power. Am I willing to use that power that I have or not? And it doesn't really matter. You either bring peace to yourself or you'll stay in worry. And it's okay, whatever we choose. That's the free will that we have been given as spiritual beings, having this human experience. And if we can do so with non-judgment of ourselves, we've given us a greater degree of peace. So this is the paradox. If you can be in fret and worry and be peaceful about it, you're actually having a seed of peace planted within you. It sounds a little funny, but it's true. Jesus in his life began to teach how to move through this life and live in peace. One of the parables that Jesus used was a parable of a mustard seed. And mustard seeds are very tiny. They're very, very tiny. Actually, if you lose one on the kitchen floor sometimes, it's a little challenging to find it. But the cool thing about the seed is that all potentiality of that seed becoming whatever type of seed it is within the very seed. Whether it's a plant, an herb, a flower, a tree, whether it's grass, the potentiality is already within that seed. So when we plant it, we get whatever that seed is. So when I am planting seeds of peace, I'm going to grow peace. When I'm planting seeds of worry, I'm going to grow myself a worry tree. I might climb up of it, hang out in it, read a book in it. I can do that. That's okay. But the kingdom of heaven is within us. So what that means is that all potentiality is also within us. So that as much as I have a potentiality to learn how to worry, I have an equal potentiality to learn how to be in peace, to learn how to center myself. I can come to that when I'm ready to do that. And the readiness is on my own unique, individualized unfoldment. So when somebody's in fret and worry, the best thing I can do is bring my peace to that and allow them to be exactly where they are in fret or worry, but I don't have to join them. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to disagree either, but I can choose to come and simply be in the peace in my heart. Just stay in peace. And then, of course, when you're going to stay in peace, somebody might invite you into worry. Hey, aren't you worried about this? And then you get to choose and choose again. Am I going to join them in their worry? Or am I going to choose to stay in my peace, non-judgmentally about any of us, and let that be perfect? Just let it be. Let it be exactly what it is in the moment, knowing that the moment is the only thing we have and is the divine perfection for each of us in the moment, even when we're at different places. Colossians, one of the things I want you to remember about Colossians, it's a letter written in the early churches. It comes from Paul's writings, or the writings attributed to Paul. And what was happening is they were building churches. They were building spiritual communities that were coming together to continue to practice the ways of Jesus. And what we have is actually letters that are written to Paul or one of Paul's associates. What we have is not the letter that's written, but the answer that was given. So think about that. This is an answer given to someone. And the answer to whatever question that was asked was, let the peace of Christ keep you in tune with each other, in step with each other. Let the peace of Christ keep you in tune with, in step with each other, and cultivate thankfulness. Let the word of Christ. In the beginning was the Word. Remember those words from the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word. The Word of Christ. In the beginning was the Christ. So let the Christ of us have the run of the house. Let's speak words of peace. Let's speak words of harmony. When we are in the kingdom of heaven, then our words, our bodies, our souls are in alignment with God or divine mind or source energy or the universe, whatever your expression of the divine is. So this tells me, since this is a response to a question in the early spiritual communities, what this tells me is that they were struggling with some of the same issues that we are challenged by at times. How do we have peace with each other? How do I stand and be with somebody who has a very different opinion of me, or a different opinion of something I believe in, which I have attached myself to, so therefore your opinion that's different than my opinion is actually somehow an opinion of me. You guys are smiling. Do you get it? Have you ever had that experience? How do I stand and know that we can indeed be in tune with each other and be different and hold the difference? I can be in peace while you think differently than I think, even if the differently than I think is about me. I have that power to do that if I am willing to make that choice. And when I'm in my practice, when I'm living peace, when I forget and go back to my symbol, which I would put in my heart, you put it wherever is right for you. When I do that, I can come home to my heart, that center of energy that radiates forth and wants the best for everybody when I'm truly living in my Christedness. And I'm not joining a different vibration, but I'm living from my heart. Because when I'm living from my Christ expression, I cannot do anything but be the frequency of love. It's when I step out, and I do so regularly, it's when I step out that something different might happen. But I believe that we're being called to live in that Christ expression as often as we can. That we are the place where God shows up. That when we're in the midst of some difficulty, we're the place that God shows up. We're the center or the presence of peace. I was traveling one day, and I stopped to fill up my car at a Love's. You know, the Love's service stations that are along I-95. So I had stopped. I'd gone to the restroom. I'd figured out what I wanted to drink, so I had a bottle of water. I'm standing in line, And this woman is yelling, yelling at the cashier. And it was not lost on me that I'm standing in a place called Love's. And something unlike love is occurring. And I was like, hey, this is really fascinating to me. And I'm thinking, well, I can be peace in this moment. I could engage. I could go, wow, what is she doing? Who does she think she is? I could go through all that rumble in my head. Or I could think, oh, let me be as centered as possible and radiate peace and love. So that love is where love is. And love in the midst of love. I can do that. I have that power. And she came down a little. She didn't come down fully, but she came down a little bit. There was a decrease in the volume. Did it have something to do with me? I don't know. But I know that I didn't engage. I didn't come to her frequency. I didn't tune in and tap in with her in the midst of loves where love was not happening and love was happening. So how often are we in an environment where peace is happening and peace is not happening? Peace is always happening because God is always present. And wherever God is, there must be peace because God is peace. So peace is happening, thus it's available to us if we're willing to tune into that frequency of peace. The question is always, what will we do? What choice will I make? What choice will you make? Let the word of Christ, the message is you are a beloved expression of God. That's the message. So even the woman who's yelling at the cashier is a beloved expression of God. Maybe she's just forgotten it for a moment. Maybe her overwhelm has overwhelmed her knowing of her expression. But my saying something, and there were some people who were saying some not so nice things to her, my saying something to her is not going to assist her in uncovering that expression of God. But in our oneness, my radiation of peace will be an invitation. And see, there's no power over there. My radiating peace is an invitation for her to step in or not. Total freedom. There's no power over anyone. Say, you're being really rude to the cashier is power over something. It's trying to control in an environment that's already a little bit out of control on some level, and yet totally in control on another level because we know, because of who we are in unity, that the divine is present even in that moment. And when we can remember that, and then we can come and be the matching of that and live in congruence with that, what a difference we make in the world. What a difference we make in the world. Give you some metaphysics. Peace is a harmony and tranquility derived from the awareness of the Christ consciousness. And Christ consciousness is always residing in each of us as spiritual perfection. So we could just change our names to spiritual perfection. For that is truly who we are, and we all have the equal amount of spiritual perfection within us already. We all live it to a different degree. I personally want to be one of the people, hopefully one of many people, that when I walk into the room gets brighter. You know that statement, the room can brighten up as you walk in, or it can brighten up as you walk out. I want to be one of the people that brightens up when I walk in, not when I walk out. And believe me, I'm sure there have been many times where it has brightened up when I walked out. But our Christness is our spiritual perfection, and we all have it. We all have it to equal degrees. And we have the freedom to use it in the degree that is true to us in any given moment. One of the beauties is I might choose to use it in this moment, and if I forget it and I don't use that spiritual perfection, I don't be that spiritual perfection fully in another moment, I can step in and be it again. So it's a dynamic experience of life, that energy of life that I'm calling myself to. Peace and serenity are not found in a set of circumstances or conditions in life. Peace and serenity come through that feeling of oneness with that which is eternal and secure. So when we're in oneness with each other, when I am recognizing that if you're upset with me, I'm upsetable for one thing, but I'm also capable of seeing it. And if it's hooking me, I'm in the same energetic vibration as you. If it's not hooking me, and I can stay out of judgment about, well, I didn't get hooked. They were all hooked up. And I didn't get hooked. When I can stay in my Christ consciousness, I can let it be and just let it flow. And I don't have to get engaged in it. And I can actually be the solution or a part of the solution by holding my peace, by holding my own harmony, by holding a vibration of joy, even in the midst of something that may appear to be difficult. Jesus was a radical. He was outrageous in his time. Are you willing to be a radical and outrageous in our time? Are you willing to step in and complain? Or are you willing to go, ooh, maybe I'm needed here. Or maybe there's something here that I have to offer. I can offer peace. I can offer harmony. I can offer joy. One day I was with a group of people. We were part of a worship team, and we were trying to figure out how to illustrate this. So we had this idea of mud and water in one of those ball canning jars that was big enough to see. So we put some mud and we put some water and we shook it up thinking, oh, in just a moment it's going to clear. It took that jar 3 days to clear. Couldn't use it in a Sunday talk. So we tried something else. Okay, let's get some mineral oil and sand. So we put mineral oil in a jar and put sand in it, shook it up. It didn't take 3 days. It took less time, but it still took almost a day to clear. The lesson in that for me was that when I'm all shook up, that it might take me some time. It might take another person some time. And that if I can open my heart and allow the time that's necessary to involve, I'm not going to get as hooked. But I tell you what, we sure watch the jar closely for both the mud and the sand. I haven't yet found anything that clears instantaneously, but I know that it is possible. And I know it's possible because of the behavior of Jesus. Kicked over the tables in the temple and turned around and was loved instantly. And maybe kicking over the tables was an act of love. So I can live in my humanness, and I think that a big piece of what we're here for is to learn to bring our spirituality, embrace and infuse, and become. Take that spirituality and embrace and infuse that humanness so they become equivalent to each other. How do we do this? We learn to trust ourselves. We learn to trust ourselves. Sometimes this is the hardest thing. We take the time that's necessary to spend in prayer and meditation or reading with somebody who's going to invite us to live our highest self. We take that time so that when an instance happens, when we step into an environment that happens, that we can draw forth from that practice. We cut ourselves some slack, knowing that it takes a while to uncondition reactions. And one of the best ways is to practice new responding instead of old reactings. We can do that. We can celebrate that we're learning. So often I hear people say, oh, I finally did it. Drop the finally. You did it. Yay, it's something to do the Snoopy dance over. Oh, it only took me 16 years. So what? What were you learning in the 16 years that it was taking you? It didn't take you 25, and you learned it. You learned it. How cool is that? I was willing to do something new. Celebrate yourself for that. Celebrate yourself for being here in spiritual community together. For coming, for singing, for interacting, for opening your hearts to each other. Celebrate yourself for that. All the places you could be in the world today, here you are. Celebrate that. And say to somebody else, thanks for coming. I'm so happy to see you. I look forward to Sunday mornings. I get to hang out with a crowd on Sunday morning. So thank you for that. It's a gift to me. And I'm thinking it's a gift to you because over and over and over when I talk to people, one of their biggest fears is being alone and feeling lonely in the midst of a group of people. And when we are living and radiating joy and peace and love and harmony, then if they're feeling alone, we're an invitation for them to step out of that aloneness. And then give yourself time. And I'll tell you a little story to illustrate that time. Buddha was traveling with 3 of his followers. They're walking along a dusty road and they run into a place that there's a lake. And he looks at one of his followers and says, hey, will you go get me a cup of water? And the follower was like, oh yeah, I'll be happy to go get you water. So he takes his pot, his water pot, and he walks down to the lake. And just as this guy gets to the lake, a bull with a cart comes along and starts through the water. So you know what happened to the water. It gets all muddy and murky. The follower looks at the water and says, oh, I can't take this to my teacher. I can't take this to Buddha. And so he comes back to Buddha and says, oh, Buddha, I'm sorry. I can't take it. I couldn't. The water was muddy. I just couldn't bring it to you. So about half an hour later, Buddha says to the same guy, hey, would you try the water now? Go back to the lake and give me some water. And they've traveled on. And so he walks back to the lake and he has his pot and he looks at the water. It's been a good hour by this time and the water's still murky. Like, oh, I cannot take my teacher this water. It would be disrespectful. So he goes back and tells Buddha, this is okay. A little bit later, Buddha said, would you go get me some water? So now it's been a considerable time. And the follower, the student, goes back to the water, and the water has cleared enough that there's some places that the student can get some fresh water for his teacher. And he scoops the water into the pot, and he carefully carries it, and Buddha takes it and looks at it and says, what have you learned here? I mean, imagine now the student's on the spot. What have you learned here? And the student says, I don't know. And the Buddha says, sometimes letting something be is all that needs to happen. You let the water be, and eventually the turmoil of the water cleared. We can use our spiritual discernment. We can use what we learn in our times of prayer and meditation to choose, is this something we simply let be, or do we need to take an action? What is the right thing to do? Because beingness is equal to doingness when it is the right action to do. And the only way we know is spending that time in prayer and meditation, using wisdom combined with love to discern our choice. What choice will you make today and as you move forward? I am sure that it will be the right and perfect choice for you.